Hello everyone, this is Angela at beginninggenealogist.com. Today I want to talk about the basic steps of getting started. Oral history. Oral history is going to be the launching pad for every genealogy line that you begin to pursue. It's going to become the beginning step of most of your projects. Oral history usually means that you're going to sit down with one or more individuals who can give you information from which you're going to compile some basic notes, take that information with you as you go to the genealogy library, to the National Archives, or to whichever family history facility that you're going to use to obtain the documents. The documents are going to confirm the information that you receive from the elder with whom you're going to conduct your conversation, your oral history conversation. Now, anyone who is at least, I'd say 70 years or older is going to be a great resource for you, and sometimes even younger than that. You want to identify anyone in your family circle who can give you substantive information about your family. Now, many people will start out saying, oh gosh, I'm so frustrated because all of the elders in my family have passed away. Well, I'll ask you this question. Does the community where your family lived and perhaps still lives, does that community still exist? Assuming that it does, there's someone still in that community who is still there, who still can answer some questions for you, share information about what they remember about your family, about their involvement in the church, their involvement in the community, their involvement in the town. A lot of things have happened over the last several decades in the country. Those individuals lived through it, as did your family. So you want to be able to sit down, make an appointment with that individual, and really ask some substantive questions from which you'll be able to have some great data to work with. Now, when you begin that formal interview, what should you do? You should, number one, as I said, make an appointment. Book their time. Don't arrive unannounced. Take some things with you. Take a notepad. Take a pen, pencil. Be prepared to take notes and have a series of set questions, of prepared questions. This will help you stay on focus and help you direct the conversation. A question's often asked, well, can I just go in and tape that conversation, get a video camera, set up a tripod, and film it? You can, but I don't recommend it. The reason why I don't recommend it, a camera can be invasive. It is intrusive. It's in their space. It's zooming in on them. And like most individuals, a person who for the first time is being interviewed in this formal way is going to be self-conscious, as opposed to concentrating on perhaps the answers that they're giving you to your questions. There may be that question that's really on their mind. Do I look okay on the camera? Do I sound okay? They're concentrating on things that you really don't want to be their area of focus. So again, if anything other than your notepad and your pen or pencil, it's okay to take a small audio cassette. And I say small because they're oftentimes pocket size. Once you put that audio cassette down, and you can put it right next to them, it's voice activated, it's out of their line of vision because they're looking at you when they're speaking with you. And it's far less intrusive, and it does not interfere with the dialogue. As I said, you also want to have a series of set questions, of prepared questions. And every oral history interview, you ask the same beginning questions. By that, you want to get their formal name, their name at birth. If it is a woman in particular, get her maiden name. You want to also get information, where was he born, or where was she born, when were they born, and what community. You want to really capture the same data on every person at all times. And of course, you proceed through your questions. One of the questions that I often like to ask a person fairly early in a conversation is to ask them to reflect on the times when they were a child. who was the oldest person they could remember when they were a child. And then that sometimes loosens up some feelings of anxiety they may have about the conversation, and dialogue begins to flow. You want to, at the end of that conversation, and you have all your set questions, your prepared questions, and I'm going to give a list of questions for you on the website as a guideline, but there are other questions that you may ask that are unique to your community, unique to the history of your family. But these are just there as a guide for you. But after you've finished and you've gone through all of these questions and you've brought this conversation to a close, number one, you thank that individual, both in their presence, but you follow up and thank them with a card, with a phone call. That gesture of thanks can mean so much and can also open the door for you for future conversations. Yes, future conversations. Because one interview is often not enough. When you find some information, you want to go back and share it with them. Yes, you're correct. I did see my uncle living there. I didn't know that he had joined the Navy. This was never spoken about. You want to share with them. And that person realizes that their time has been appreciated. So it's very, very important. But secondly, when you get home, you want to immediately transcribe that interview. It's tedious, but it is important, and you will never regret making a transcription of that interview. If you have an audio cassette, it's easier. You're going to have to play it back lots of times to get all of the transcription, all of the conversation. Quote yourself, quote that individual. The entire conversation should be transcribed. That transcription that you make can be referred to for years and years and years. And of course, a second part of that, if you make an audio cassette, immediately make a backup. Again, you will never, ever regret that. If you have an audio cassette tape, the old-fashioned tape itself, then make it a digitized form as soon as you can. These are things immediately you want to do, but again, don't forget the stage of transcribing that interview. Many people really skip over this often from time to time. If that tape is destroyed or lost, you still have a record of what took place in that conversation. And trust me, that becomes an artifact in and of itself. Every time you begin a new line, let's say you've been working on your dad's line for some time, and after several months, a couple of years, you decide it's time I really pursue my mother's line. If mom is still alive, of course, she's immediately the person you're going to interview, but perhaps an aunt, a cousin. Identify the person in the family or in the neighborhood, you know the one I'm talking about, who goes to everybody's funeral, who has all of the funeral programs. That person is a person to put in your circle of elders, and sit down and talk to him or her as well. Sometimes a sibling can be a really critical person to talk to as well. The person does not have to be an elder per se, but someone who just has a lot of information. So it could be one of your contemporaries who is also an interviewee. All of these people become wonderful resources for you. And again, keep in mind, oral history is the beginning. You're starting as a genealogist with the present, going back in time. That oral history that interview is going to become the pointer. That's going to be the real launching pad that's going to tell you which kinds of documents to get. If your aunt that you're speaking to talks about a first child, perhaps that was born in the family, but this child died as an infant, you may have grown up without this information that this child existed, but there's a vital record that you can go after and get. You want to get documents on everyone that you can, and that conversation sometimes becomes the very document that will lead you to something else as well. Anyway, oral history, don't forget that step. You just don't want to start jumping into census records without having that guideline ahead of you. So good luck with your interviews, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.